We are back with another edition of From the Coach's Office, brought to you by the Varsity Voices Media Network. I'm Dan Fravoletti, and here with me is my co-host Joe Fravoletti. On today's podcast, we are welcoming back the head coach of the 2024 state champion DePaul Prep Rams, Mike Passarella. After the incredible run to a state title last year, Coach Passarella joins us to talk about what the Rams have in store for us in 2025. Coach, welcome to the podcast.
Guys, thanks for having me on. As always, it's a pleasure to chat some CCL football with you guys.
If you are looking to buy or sell a home, contact RE/MAX Realtor and Circle of Legends recipient Christopher Cobb. Let Chris's extensive negotiating experience work to guide you on all of your real estate buying and selling needs. Contact Christopher now to discuss the right strategy for your personalized real estate buying and selling plan. His number is 630-420-0070, or you can visit his website at christophercobb.com. Well, that's awesome. And congratulations, first and foremost, on a great year last year. I know we're on to this year, but I have to ask a couple things just about last year since we haven't had you on. How long into the fall and winter did the celebrating last year?
Great question. I appreciate it, first off, for the thanks. I mean, it's the winning a state championship obviously is the culmination of everything, right? We know how tough it is and how difficult it is. And I mean, honestly, I enjoyed it for a short period of time before we were up and running for the next piece of it, because you're trying to soak in the moment with your upperclassmen, and it's the season, it's school, semester's going on. Kids are jumping into their next sports, right? Football's ending and they're starting basketball and wrestling, and we're hitting the ground running with the underclassmen in terms of off-season development. So it's short-lived, but you're always going to look back and reflect. I still do it 7-8 months later. So it's been
Good for
one
you.
heck of a ride.
So I don't know if you remember this or not last year, Coach, but I asked you the question towards the end of our interview about if we're sitting down a year from now, what do you hope we're talking about as far as DePaul Prep football is concerned? And I want to play you your answer to that question. It's about a minute long, so have a listen. So how about that, Coach? Did you check all the boxes? I think you did. How does that feel?
It feels great. Yes, I remember it. Obviously, I remember the question when I talked to you guys. I listened to your guys' podcast, I mean, on my drives. If I'm not mistaken, I think you guys had that on there with me and Coach Boo over at Montini, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So kind of hearing myself talk about that. And when you reflect, you're like, man, what a ride. It was an incredible journey. And here we are today trying to just continue stacking bricks and building our thing continuous one day at a time, right? In next season.
Coach, you had the you mentioned in there, I noticed that you said 4A/5A, and so you never know. But DePaul, after the state championship, topic of a lot of conversation within the IHSA. And I don't want to get too deep into the weeds and rules and everything else. What I do want to know is, with all the discussion about where you're going to be, how it's going to work, multiplier, waiver, all that. How do you manage that with the players? Do you find that they're talking about it a lot? I know how kids can be, and it can be like a coffee clutch and rumor mill. What do you do to kind of keep them focused and not worry about those things?
Yeah, they're going to talk, right? Everybody, is going to hear things. Families, friends, other, peers at other schools are all talking about it, right? Everybody listens, and We'll read message boards. I mean, it's all on social media. Like, it's all out there, right? Everything's out there. The pros and the cons offer everything, right? At the end of the day, how do we handle it? I mean, we got to remind the kids every single day that the outside noise cannot have a reflection on who we are and what we do. The only thing we can control is who we are, how we go about our business, and who the opponent is in front of us, right? I mean, we don't have control over any of that. Obviously, we were an anomaly, right? Like, when I started here, we had that conversation last year, 450 kids in the original, like the early time of DePaul, and we're at 1,400 going into this fall. No multiplier, right? So we were playing without that because of the lack of qualification to the playoffs. Now we're making this drastic jump, right? We can call it the DePaul rule because we should not have been where we're at, but it was the way that things shook out.
Right.
And we're going to be, the conversation now is 7A/8A, depending on how things shake out, throughout the course of the football season. So just got to remind the boys every single day, like, just take care of your business, take care of what you can control, go out there, try your hardest, be your best, be a great teammate, develop on and off the field, and let's go ahead and take care of our destiny, however it shakes out.
So, Coach, you've been at DePaul Prep now. Is this going into your 7th year?
Going year 7 is this.
Okay. And I'm sure over the course of time, things that you've built or things that you've kind of instilled in your players and in your program has developed over the course of those 7 years. What kind of culture are you building at DePaul Prep football, and how do you instill that in your players?
Cultures, that's the hardest thing to do, right? Came from the college level, and you can flip a switch with culture after 2-3 years, right? It could be pretty immediate, no matter where you're at and where you go. When you go into the high school level, I had this thought process. I'm like, all right, it's going to take me 2 or 3 years, but it takes a longer time. It took me about 5 years to really kind of get kids to buy in and to trust what I'm trying to do and what we're looking to accomplish. And I tell the guys all the time when we have our first team meeting in the off season, going into after the season's over, try to give them some time off. Kind of talk about what the schedule is going to be, and hey, here's when we're lifting in the off season. We push kids to be multi-sport athletes. Like, in the wintertime, go wrestle, go play basketball, go be a high school kid, right? I want the culture to be, go be a high school kid. We want it to be fun. And how do you do these things? You let kids be kids. And you say, I need you in the off season for an hour and 15 minutes, X amount of days a week, however things are shaking out, to hit the weight room, to make sure that we're strong and explosive. Because I remind them that football is supposed to be fun. You're guaranteed 9 games throughout the fall. That's all you're guaranteed. So what are you going to do to be able to get to those and accomplish the most you can within those 9 games, and make them understand that what you do, how you act day in, day out throughout the off season is what really establishes the culture when you get into the season, and the buy-in and the belief and the team camaraderie, right? Our guys talk about being a band of brothers, the brotherhood. So you have to do all that stuff throughout the off season. So I try to really build that culture up at that point in time by pushing kids, but I want them to have fun. I want them to enjoy their time while they're out here. I tell them that it is a segue. I remind my kids every single day. I go, Coach, you show up at school in class, you got adults telling you what to do and when to do them. We tell you what class you got to be at, we tell you your homework you got to do. We tell you when you got to eat lunch, right? I go, you come to practice and you got adults telling you what to do and when to do it, right? I go, when you're around your boys and when you're on the football team, I want you to enjoy your time. I want you to take your mind off everything going on. And that's kind of how you get some belief. They believe in one another. They trust one another. They have belief and trust in the coaches. And that's how you establish greatness from my perspective.
Coach, it was very clear, kind of along those same lines, that you had a special class of seniors last year. When I prepare for this, I go back and look at the all conference, all seniors. And even though you had juniors who were more than worthy of being all conference, but what do you feel like the juniors and lower levels were able to take away from that senior class that they can use this year?
That we did. Like, we had, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you called it the all name school last year, right?
For sure. Some
Right.
great names.
It was a special group. I mean, I think every year, you have a special group, right? You have a different type of bond with each of the kids. And we literally just had this conversation as a staff yesterday in terms of what we lost in terms of leadership. And what's great is when you have a program and a team that is truly player led, and as coaches, and especially myself, where I can step back and show up late because a meeting runs late, and the kids, there are leaders that are running warm up lines or getting the kids lifting already in the warm ups, and then we can get into everything, right? When they do that, that's when you got a special group. And what's great about it is that they left what it means to be a player led program. right? They showed the underclassmen what it takes to really accomplish what your ultimate goal is, right? If you want to have the ultimate successes, want to have, keep everything at a high, because football is all ebbs and flows. It's highs and lows, right? There's going to be the really high moments. We're going to have really low moments where we got to pick each other up. And this class that graduated that we're going to miss, that we're looking forward to see what they're going to do at the next level in their lives. I mean, they showed the underclassmen what it means to be great, and that's something that's invaluable that I can't, as a coach, teach my underclassmen. They have to see it.
So not only did you lose some really good leadership from last year's team, you also lost some really good talent, Coach. So from your perspective, it's like, okay, we've got to reload every year, right? So who are you relying on or looking at this year, not only to step up in the leadership roles or leadership position, but also from a talent standpoint? Who should we be on the lookout for DePaul Prep this year?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about last year, we had, I forget how many kids, 4 or 5 kids that were 3-year starters for us, right? Kids that really were valuable pieces in terms of their experience, 2-year starters, right? If I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, we're returning 3 offensive starters, varsity offensive starters, and I think 4 defensive varsity starters. I think the one thing that I always try to do, I try to play as many kids as possible. Like, we 2 platoon. I got my one way guys, offense and defense. We try to sprinkle in special teams, but I also try to get kids on the field. So we all know how a 2 deep goes, right? You're going to have your 1s and your 2s, and no matter what position, I tell my guys, man, whoever, if you got 2 guys out there for corners, for example, I got my 2 starting corners, whoever my number 3 guy is, I need to make sure I rotate him in there and get series. So what ends up happening is you get kids that are comfortable. We all know that football's a game. It's a violent sport, right? It's contact. Injuries happen. If a kid goes down, I need to make sure my next guy is ready to go. So I got kids that have showcased on game film last year that may not have started, but got ample amount of reps and opportunities to play that we're really comfortable and confident with. And there's going to be some names. I mean, we got a junior quarterback that has been on the rise that we're really, really high on, Jackson Gerbinski. I mean, he is a physical specimen, not quite Juju, but a different type of leader and a different type of football player. We got our running back room. I mean, we lost Nicky, who was very dynamic, but we got a sophomore who is going to split carries with a junior. Our sophomores, Tyson Hooks, and our junior, Zach Stewart. Our wide receiving core, we're bringing back Matt Osterman, which is going to be huge for that room. But we got another young man by Ewan McCran, and he unfortunately just broke his ankle this summer, so he's going to be out for the first few weeks of the year. I mean, he's everything of Braden Peavy, but instead of being 6 foot, and Braden's at Western Michigan right now, he's 6'3". So, I mean, we're reloading on offense, and we're really excited about it. We got to replace 3 offensive linemen. We got some sophomores that are going to take their spots. Continue to keep an eye out on guys like Carlos Rios at right tackle. Nahom Temezgin's going to be our left tackle, and he's only a sophomore, and he's very, very special. So offensively, those are kind of those names. Defensively, my man Hunter Watola is coming back, and he was a force up front, returning Carter Jareco. I mean, those 2 guys are going to control a line of scrimmage. I mean, we're going from being 6'1", 210 last year up front to where we're going to average 6'5", about 270 right now with our 3 down defensively, and those 2 guys are going to really hold their own. Luke Flom was a starter for us last year at Sam. We're sliding him inside to Will, and he's kind of our defensive leader right now and really gets things going. Hayes McGuire's back at Mike linebacker. I'm excited. I got names, and I can keep going with these names, but those are probably guys right now.
Yeah.
We're not short on talent. Our lower levels were really successful the last couple of years. I think our freshmen went 7-2. Our sophomores went 7-2. And I brought some kids up, but for the most part, those kids play with the competition that we do, and they're competitive. I mean, we might be graduating a great group of guys who had some leadership abilities and had playing experience, but we're reloading with kids that are just as talented, if not more talented than them, and we're excited about it.
Well, it's great news that you have a lot of talent coming back and that you're looking forward to, Coach. Because I looked at your schedule, and Joe and I we like to take credit at the Varsity Voices for some things. We think we speak it into existence, and one of the things that we talked about last year with you was the rivalry that you called. Like you said, you're not shy. You'll speak what you're thinking, and you not called out St. Ignatius, but just said, hey, that's the team we look at. And we thought, well, we don't see him on the schedule. We talked to Coach Miller. He said, I don't know how we get the schedule worked out. We look at the schedule as it's released this year. Week 2, there's St. Ignatius. And so I called Joe immediately and said, I think we did that, Joe. That's the Varsity Voices effect.
We spoke that,
we spoke
yes.
it into existence. I don't want to get too far into say week 2 before, and then I look at week 1, and there's Fenwick. And so you are not shying away from anything from a scheduling perspective. And what was the thinking kind of behind that, and what effect did the Varsity Voices have on that week 2 schedule?
I forgot in one of the episodes you guys gave it a name, didn't you? You gave yourselves a name in terms of putting it into existence?
Well, I think it's the Varsity Voices effect, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
It is that. Yeah.
I remember that, and I told, like, last year with the Ignatius thing, it's more because they're kind of our biggest rival in terms of where we pull kids from. So there are a lot of kids that go to the same middle schools that either go to DePaul or Ignatius if they're going a private route. So they all know one another, right? That's the reason why I say that. It's like, it's not for me. Like, for me, it's like whatever. But my kids, all the players are like, we want Ignatius. I'm like, all right, man, I'll try and get Ignatius on there. So obviously you can't control the 7-game schedule, right? The weeks 3 through 9. We had an open week 1. Obviously we had Deerfield on the schedule the previous 2 years, and then they didn't want to renew. So we were on the look for a week 1 opponent, and no one wants to play us. I mean, we got shut down by everybody, like legitimately every single school, public and private. Fenwick was still looking. So we were like, they were the only team that was still open week 1. We're like, well, I guess we're going to do this. We actually had a week 2 opponent who backed out of the contract. So we were looking for a week 2 late in the game. Ignatius was in the same boat, and I begged my AD, I was like, can you please just ask them? Like, I would like to do this. Our kids would like to do this. This would be fun. Like, this would be a really good thing. So they said, yeah, but we have to go to them. I'm like, that's fine. I'll go to you guys. Like, not a problem. They got a beautiful field, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right there. Like, I'm like, it's cool. Like, let's go do this. Isn't it be exciting? I told my ideas, like, I'm happy if you want to call IMG and see if they want to come up here. Like, I don't care. Bishop Foreman, like, I'm gonna throw stuff out there. And he's like, dude, pass. You gotta pump the brakes, man. Let's calm down.
Yeah.
But I'm open for game and whoever we want to play. I'm not shy of competition. I mean, we've got a 9-game, and I know you guys talked about it in one of your previous episodes, right? Talking about the schedules, and I mean, it's 9 straight games of CTL football. And when you have accomplishments and everybody knows our growth, people were shied away from competing against us. And I guess that's kudos to the program and the school where we're at and what we've been able to build here together as a program. And we're looking forward to 9 straight games of really high end competitive football. The goal is to make the playoffs, and whether we're 7A or 8A, we're not going to be shy in competition. We're going to be prepared to, if we can hopefully repeat to get there, that we're going to be ready to go no matter who the opponent is in either one of those classifications.
So, Coach, through the course of your coaching career, I'm sure you've taught a lot of lessons to the players and other people that you've worked with over that time. What's one lesson from football you think applies to life better than anything else?
So that's a great question. We're getting deep into this conversation.
I know. This is year two, Coach.
Okay. I got to think on that one. So listen, when I talk and I give my spiels. We have our open houses and families come through. I give my spiel in terms of what I do philosophically, and I preach 2 big things, right? Communication, accountability. And in terms of football, I think the accountability aspect is the big thing, right? I think we're all afraid to admit that we make mistakes. Especially on the field. And I remind my guys all the time, the beautiful thing about the sport of football is you have 11 guys out there trying to accomplish one goal, whatever it is, offense, defense, special teams, right? Whatever the play is on either side of those 3 phases of the game. And if 10 out of 11 guys do their job right, you're talking about what, 93%? That's an A. But that one guy that makes a mistake could turn that play, if it's an offensive run play, a negative 5-yard loss if that one guy makes a mistake, right? That's the beauty about being accountable and holding yourself accountable, and players holding each other accountable to push yourself to have success. And if I can teach the lesson to kids not to be afraid, because young men, and I think even as adults, I have a problem admitting my mistakes and asking for help and doing these things. If I can really relay the message to the kids that, hey, listen, making a mistake's not a bad thing. Asking questions is not a bad thing. Holding yourself accountable. Sometimes if something bad has transpired, looking at the person in the mirror and why something wasn't successful. If we can really get to that point, and I can really dig deep into an individual, I know that I have accomplished a lot, and that kid's going to have a really successful life moving forward when they graduate post high school, post college. So I think that's the big thing. I preach accountability, and if I can really have kids hold themselves accountable, I think football is a good point to be able to make that happen.
Coach, it kind of leads me into my next thought. And last year, you shared with us about, not on the interview, but I think when we were there for Zuko's Dog of the Week, but you shared with me some innovative thinking about your practice schedule and how you went against the grain as far as heavy versus light days. I won't ask you to share any state secrets, but you're clearly open-minded on some of these aspects of preparation. What value do you see in listening to ideas and trying to implement those ideas within the program?
So I'm very open-minded. Last year was the first time that I really made a drastic shift in our practice plan. I think I eliminated about an hour to hour and a half throughout the week in fall. I eliminated a lot of the big things that people continuously do, the 7-on-7s and the inside runs, a lot of things that are old school. My thought process is that if you're in a season, what's the most important thing, right? And people will say, like, you can do attributes, things like speed, you can do attributes like power and explosiveness, but at the end of the day, availability is the best ability. Like, we need kids that are going to be out there and playing, right? How can I make sure that we are healthy throughout the year? And we get so much time over the summer where we try to really hammer home the fundamentals by positions. We'll get our practice in, and you start adjusting practice. And it got to a point by week 7, week 8, we're adjusting practice and eliminating Indy. I'm like, why are we burning the kids out? I mean, these kids are fatigued. We're really, banging and hitting hard. There's a thing to science. So I'll spend my entire off season, I'll go to the coaching clinics. I'll watch Coach Tube. I'll do things X's and O's. But I know so much football that I've been doing this 21 years. Like, I don't need to keep figuring out how to do individual and do these things. So I want to spend more time trying to dive into how can I maximize my players' efficiencies and abilities throughout the course of, if we want to hit 14 weeks, right? You want to hit 14 weeks in a season plus the 3 weeks of fall camp. You're talking about 17 weeks of football. So how can I maximize that? And I tried something. I threw something against the wall, and the only way you're going to know if something works is you have to give it a chance and an opportunity. And obviously, we had really good success. I have leadership meetings with my kids, so after every week, I'm asking my guys how they're feeling, how they're doing. I eliminated Saturday meetings. Like, I gave my kids an actual weekend last year. Like, no film for 2 hours, no lift on a Saturday. Like, just sleep in, hang out, be a kid. Right? I'm trying to figure out how can I get my athletes to be high school kids, to enjoy it, to have fun, maximize their abilities. And we changed up practice, and it worked. They loved it. I mean, there were no complaints. My coaches were kind of skeptical at the forefront of it, and I gave them a reason why. I asked my coaches, like, if you guys have a thought, an idea, like, give me a reason why. If you question something, give me a reason why. Don't just give me anything for no reason. And I'm going to give you the why behind it. And there's a lot of things behind, data and science, and I'm going to try and take advantage of that. And we did. So we became analytical. I was an analyst in the NFL. I'm scientific because I have a kinesiology background. So I'm putting all my backgrounds to fruition here. And obviously it worked. And I'm still tweaking with it right now. We'll see how this fall goes. People say less is more, and I truly follow less is more, and it ended up working.
So here at the Varsity Voices, Coach, we've talked about different types of merchandise, whether it be hats or T-shirts or something along those lines. One of the things we've talked about is, we would have something where it would be a hashtag and then a phrase or a word about each of the different schools' football programs. So if we were to create one for DePaul Prep, had a hashtag and then a word or a phrase, what would that word or phrase be for you guys?
For us, it's own the now. It's owning the moment, and that's something that I kind of came up with a few years ago. Actually, it wasn't my bright mind; it was my smart wife who kind of gave me that. She's a marketing person, so
give her credit. That's good. Yeah,
I have to. Right? There's always someone on the back end, right? I got a great coach's wife that's supportive, lets me do this, which is great. And I was like, I'm trying to come up with something, and I had some slogans, and I was trying to really, again, we go back to that culture question, right? I was trying to get kids to understand, like, what buying in and trusting what I am doing, because I don't think there was that trust piece, right? When you get that trust and buy-in, you're going to have that success. So I was close to some different things, and she came out with that, and I said, I love it. I took it, and it's hashtag own now, own the moment right now, own who we are, take care of it. We talk about it. Everything's one day at a time. And that's our slogan over here at DePaul.
That's awesome. And you talk about buy-in, coach, and I've got to follow up on that. So the DePaul alumni base is only a few years old. However, the Gordon Tech alumni base goes back 70 years. How has the Gordon Tech alumni base bought in and embraced the program?
I think it's taken some time, right? There was, DePaul originated 2015, so 2014. So I think we're going into year 12, if I'm not mistaken, of being DePaul. And the nice thing is that when I took over, Bill Jeske was still the head coach here. And Bill was obviously, he's a Gordon guy, played on the state championship team back in 1980 and coached here for, 25 years. And I just tried to use all the resources, right? There was the upsetness from the Gordon fan base of switching over to Paul and getting rid of that. And our admin team has done a really good job of trying to retain some things, right? We kept a nickname with the Rams, and I keep the people around. So we actually did, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the playoff games, St. Lawrence. We did like an alumni thing, and we brought back the whole entire the Gordon guys, right? So just trying to find ways to just say, hey, look, you might not be here right now in terms of name, but you haven't been forgotten. We're still the Rams. At the end of the day, we are still the Rams. We're still off of Addison and Western, right? We're still in the same neck of the woods over here in Roscoe Village. So there's everything's here, and we want to make sure that they still feel part of it and that they're not dismissed. And they always will always have those days. And a lot of people still, the Gordon families are sending their kids here to DePaul, and we're letting them know that they're not forgotten. We watched the 1980 state championship game the day before our state championship game because we had kids whose dads played on that team, right? Just trying to get those juices going. Like, hey, look, man, it's still Gordon, right? In its own different way. So we just want to make sure that they're still a part of it. They haven't been forgotten. We still talk about it all the time. So we just try to mend that gap.
So I've got just one more question for you, Coach, and it's the same one I asked you last year at this time. If we're sitting down next year for your third interview with the Varsity Voices, what do you hope we're talking about as far as DePaul Prep football in this coming season?
I'm gonna have to give you a different answer this year. Obviously, look, we still talk about the same things. We have the goal. We talk about wanting to repeat, but I think at the end of the day, what I would really like for to happen after this season is to let people know that DePaul Prep football is for real, right? We may have won 4A last year. We want to be a force that's reckoned with. I reminded the guys years ago when I took over. We were an automatic W on most opponents' teams, right? And that's something that we really wanted to change. I want whoever's on the schedule to be afraid to play us. I want to be a state hold name, right? When people talk about Illinois State football, it's Loyola's, it's Mount Carmel's, right? It's Naperville's when you go to public deal. And I want DePaul to be in that conversation. And I want to say, hey, look, we can compete with everybody. We're going 9 straight games to Chicago Catholic League for our regular season. We want to make noise in the 7A, 8A playoffs. Last year wasn't a fluke, and we can compete with whoever. And when you talk football in the state and IHSA, DePaul Prep, I want to be one of those names. So if we can do that, we accomplished it. We're continue building towards our ultimate goal of being a statewide and hopefully one day nationwide football program.
That's awesome, Coach. And to continue that with some more hard hitting stuff. Last year we were there with Zuko, the dog, to present to the Zuko's Dog of the Week award to Avery Bellis. And I would have liked to stop to eat at several places, but the big giant monster in the back seat really wouldn't let me. So if we can get out there again without Zuko sometime, where would you guys go? Where do you recommend that we stop? Where does the staff like to go?
So we usually go right down Roscoe, and we go to a spot called Commonwealth. That's usually kind of our go-to post games on Friday nights for anything. Usually kind of the main little area. Down here, this area is phenomenal. It is loaded with food, restaurants, and all types of different things, man. But Commonwealth is the joint that we frequent pretty regularly down here down on Roscoe Street.
That's good. I've asked this question a lot of the places I've been to, I don't know what that says about me, but I haven't been to Commonwealth, and so that's good to have on there, and I definitely will put it on the list.
Absolutely, yeah. Give them a little free marketing right here on your guys' podcast. Look at that.
There you go. Well, awesome. Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time. That'll do it for this edition of From the Coach's Office, brought to you by the Varsity Voices Media Network. We'd like to thank Coach Passarella for joining us. And if you enjoyed this, please do us a favor, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to tell a friend. Thanks again for watching or listening, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.